Welcome back to my channel. We are going to go over the things that I have been reading this past week. I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys. I've enjoyed a number of books by this author, and so I decided I'd give it a try. It is a young adult historical fiction. It takes place in 1989 in Romania. We are following Cristian, a 17-year-old student who has a crush on a girl and a dream to become a writer. He lives in Romania under this dictatorship. There are very strict rules on who you can talk to, what you can receive from people, what you can read. The rules are endless. There are secret police and there are informers. According to the author's note at the end of the book, as many as 1 in 10 civilians, even children, were informers under this regime. Cristian is basically blackmailed into becoming an informer, and he has to make a decision. Is he informing on his family and those who he loves, or is he going to try to give voice to the Romanian people? You are following him in this story, seeing the actions that he takes, trying to piece together who he can trust and who he can't. At times, it's a fast-paced story. It always has you guessing and second-guessing. Can Cristian trust this person? Can he trust that person? Who's informing on who? It's very much a mystery as to what is going on. I did enjoy this book. I listened to the audiobook version. While the narrator was perfectly fine, he was not my favorite, and so I feel like that maybe hampered my experience a tiny bit, so I wonder how I would feel about it if I had read a physical copy. But I didn't, and I did still enjoy it, and I was very much pulled into the story, and at times I stopped whatever it was that I was doing, and I just sat there listening to the story, wondering what was going to happen next. I didn't feel very connected to the characters in the book. Part of me thinks that this might have been an actual creative decision made by the author, because if you think about it, part of the whole story is you don't know who to trust and you don't really know your neighbors at all. You're never quite sure if they're informing on you or what's happening. So that's my one thing, is that I feel like I didn't really know any of the characters, and because of that I didn't necessarily form a good bond with them. But maybe she did it on purpose. At any rate, it was a good book and I do recommend it. The Martian by Weir. We are following Mark Watney. He's one of the first people to walk on Mars. A storm comes. It knocks a piece of equipment into him and he's carried away. Everyone thinks that he is dead, and they're forced to leave because of the possibility that none of them will make it out of there. But he's not dead. He's very much alive, and he is left behind on Mars. So this book is simply about his attempt to survive and the attempt of everyone else to rescue him. You're often focusing just on Mark Watney. Sometimes you're back down on Earth in the control room trying to figure out how to rescue him. And then you also spend some time with the rest of the crew that ended up unfortunately abandoning him. I enjoyed all of these perspectives. Weir has a really fun way of writing. Though it is very scientific, it's fast. I really enjoyed the humor on this. Mark Watney not only has a good head on his shoulders, but he also keeps his spirits up as best he can in such a situation. He mentions things like he's the best botanist on the planet and stuff like that. It's just all around a really fun, wonderful book, and I highly recommend reading it. Bonus, I did a little bit of research and found out that though there are few things the book gets wrong, by and large, it is pretty correct. Astronauts enjoy reading it. That to me gets a thumbs up because I like when things are pretty accurate. The final book that I finished this week is called Love and Other Consolation Prizes, and this is by Jamie Ford. This is a historical fiction novel, and it has a dual timeline. Part of it takes place in the 1960s, and part of it takes place in 1909. Ernest Young, he is a half-Chinese orphan who has come over to the United States after tragically losing his family, and he finds himself being auctioned off as a prize at the Seattle World's Fair. The winner is a woman who owns a brothel. He goes and he essentially becomes a servant, helping out with whatever needs doing. There are 2 girls in the brothel that he ends up falling for. In the 1960s, we're following Ernest Young as an adult with 2 daughters, and he's also married. I'm not sure who he ended up with because the wife has memory loss. So it's a story about learning why she has the memory loss. You learn about things that were going on at brothels, what was expected of women, what people were actually willing to give up, what in the end is actually for sale. It was a very interesting background about the fact that there was an actual boy who was auctioned off at the Seattle World's Fair, and also just learning about the terrible situations that these Asian immigrants ended up in, these orphans. The book did not really pull me in the way that I wanted it to. Every time we're brought back to current day, I'm trying to read a little bit faster to get back to the past. The other thing, this entire story is told because the daughter is trying to pull out a story. She's a news reporter and she really wants to write a story for her career. And there's this tension because he does not want to tell the story. I like the stories to come out organically because people want them to be told, not because they're being forced out of people and people are trying to uncover these secrets. I found it in this book and also in Winter Garden recently, which coincidentally was written by Kristen Hanna, who is the reason that I read this because she had recommended it. Those are the books that I finished this past week. My least favorite of these books was Love and Other Consolation Prizes, and next it was I Must Betray You, and then my favorite out of these 3 books was The Martian. I'm looking forward to taking a little bit of a break from historical fiction, which is great because I have a lot of sci-fi and some memoirs and stuff that I'm looking forward to reading. If you want to see my breakdown for the full month of June and what I plan on reading, go check this video out right here. Thanks so much, everyone, and I will see you next time.